I want to get back onto the Cutlass tube frame project here. It's just, I don't know, it's been been busy with other stuff and hard to find motivation lately, but while cleaning the garage up and rearranging stuff last weekend, I had to weld on the third link mount before I could move it, and surprisingly just going through that little bit of effort got me a little bit motivated again. Plus, with cleaning up the garage, the amount of stuff I moved that's all like parts that go together for this, just taking up space is quite significant. I mean, there's engine parts basically plugging up a third of the cabinets, transmission laying over there. I got sheet metal laying on everything around here, and it just seems like, I got tubing laying on the floor. It's just kind of like I might as well just maybe try to get some of that stuff put together, because then it'll take up less space too. Which really means that, at some point I'm gonna have to like pull the engine back out, and then that can get assembled kind of a thing. But it's really hot and humid today. It's only gonna get worse. It's only 7 a.m. right now, and it's gonna get up to like another 15, 20 degrees warmer today yet. So I don't know how much I'm gonna get done. But trying to think back through this thing, I feel like the big hold up for me was that the body isn't mounted yet. And I was trying to decide how I was going to do that. Like, I've got multiple options here at the B-pillar. And then the plan was to just like integrate the A-pillar into the cage tubes, because I still want to like tuck it and hide as much of the cage as possible. Just because then it'll be like it's not even there kind of a thing. But I feel like the biggest thing that's holding me up was I needed a way to mount the doors before I put the doors on, and then see about the tube fitment, because I do still want functional doors, because I'm going to have a passenger seat. I'm going to want to give people rides, and that part is really important to me versus just like welding a skin right on and just going full NASCAR with it. So I want the functional doors. So I feel like today I'm going to start off with, I'll make brackets that mimic the door mounts, or the door hinge locations rather, that I can then tie into the cage, and if I got to cut away, like kind of fit it in to get it to the right height, I'll do that, get it welded, and then I think the plan is I'm just going to like cut it right here, or above this hinge. Maybe I'll leave a little bit to integrate that top hinge to strengthen up keep all this strong, but I want to just get rid of the whole bottom section, because I'm going to want to do my front tube into the node with the dash bar, which is like right behind that hinge. So all of this stuff is really in the way, plus it's all still sheet metal that was for the way the factory heater box mounted and all that stuff. And probably going to have to be redoing the base of the windshield anyway to make sure we got clearance for the carb or throttle body. So unless I just decide to build a whole different intake for this thing, but if I do that, maybe I'm going to sell the heads and intake as a package kind of thing, and then just go back to a more simple style, so that we can do like a forward facing inlet kind of a thing, and then not have to mess with count. But that's down the road. Well, that intro didn't work out very well. I forgot there was no daycare yesterday, so I didn't get a whole lot done, but I did get a little bit done with, you can see I've cut out the A-pillar section here at the front of the door. I got a couple of brackets, is about all I got done yesterday. And then I just did the first welding of the body to the car back here, and it's shockingly rigid for as little bit as I attached it. So what I did manage to get done yesterday was making 4 of these brackets. They got a slightly different bend on each side and in opposite directions, obviously. Just kind of trying to get to roughly middle of the tube. It's not really of any consequence. Mostly you just need to make sure that my door hinges are going to line back up in the same roughish place, and just leave in a little bit of gap so that when all this gets cut out of the way and they get set down on there, it'll be at the same height kind of a thing. I'm not putting a ton of time into ensuring perfect accuracy there. Largely just because, I mean, it's a door hinge. Everything's meant to be adjustable there because they weren't ever perfect from the factory. And largely since I'm making a whole thing for it to attach, I'll show you on the other side. All I did was tack it for now because I want to mock up the door once I feel confident with that. But we'll be able to bend them in and out to kind of dial it in right now before reinforcing it from the back. The idea being that the top ones will be reinforced off of the tube that'll run from here up to our coilover mount and then down to the front of the chassis. I'll be able to easily make just a bracket off of there to really stiffen up that top one. And the back one needs a little more than just a gusset back here. Basically that upper hinge is carrying most of the load when the door is closed anyway, because it's here and then off the pin. So really the bottom is just to keep it from kind of swinging out when it opens and closes. Now for attaching the body, you can see that little gusset I put in there. Now I just did 2 of them, and they're at the top and the bottom of that reinforcement plate for the door pin. I was trying to figure out what I actually wanted to do here because I could have come all the way out to this flange with a plate and, you know, done a whole bunch of spot welds. That would have been super strong. I could have also, in addition, gone off the front out to the seam here and all the way up. That also would have been super strong. Doing them both would have like boxed in that whole area again, making it even more strong. At this point, I'm not really, I might still do those things, but they don't need to be done right now kind of a thing. And I guess I'd rather just wait and see where the rest of it ends up, because I'm going to have to attach this in several more places, but it is quite rigid. Like before, I used to be able to wiggle the top around because it'd slide all over the place down here, and now I wiggle it and the whole chassis is wiggling. So I mean, that's only just those 2. So by the time I get the other 2 on the other side, and by the time we get a wheel tub in here and all of that attached to the frame, and it's going to be plenty strong. Like I was probably way overthinking what I was going to do here, other than I might still do, you know, like from here back to the tube, just to kind of hide that from what you can see kind of a thing. I don't want to end up completely closing off and making an area where moisture can collect, unless I'm going to have a good plan as far as either painting or just coating the inside of it kind of a thing. And I'm also going to want to attach across the roof here, but given how strong that ended up, it's kind of making me rethink how much I actually need to attach. Well, there's a door on it, but we can't get too excited yet. So, I mean, latch back here, nice. I mean, we didn't change nothing there. I do have a little bit of a clearance issue from the way that I made these, but again, like I couldn't just chop everything off and then expect to know about where the locations were going to be. And of course it's hitting the door like just barely on the top hinge before it's tight, like maybe 1/8 of an inch, 3/16. On the bottom we're a good 1/2 inch off or more. Now I've got multiple options as far as doing it. Like I could leave my bracket and notch into the door. However, there is that, you know, structural reinforcement back there, you know, and we're hitting up against this side, so I have to like notch out a pretty good spot, which, I mean, really not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things. Otherwise, though, we're gonna need to gusset these brackets in anyway. So honestly, if I jump into from here, going and I get my upper tube put in, I could always just make plates off of the tube out to the door mount and then eliminate this entire back edge that's interfering. And when we get down to the bottom, I could definitely do something very similar. I'm planning on putting the battery box right here, so there will be some other material down here, but really I could just have 2 triangle gussets back to this cage tube So it's just back here instead of out in the front, and then same thing, cut it off, eliminate what's in the way, and we've got no issue. It's been a couple of days. I'm still working on getting the door to fit up the way I want. I was able to modify my lower door hinge bracket and get that one fit up. But now we're hitting on the top of the door, so it's leaned out a lot farther than it should be. I got one bracket on here, but I want to tie in the bracket to the cage tube that's going to end up going in here. So I really got to build that tube first, because I don't want to just notch out part of the door that I'm not going to need to notch out. In order to do that, I've clearanced this part of the front plate to be level with the top, because the height I'm at, it should be able to run just about dead level, maybe have just a tiny little standoff on here. You know, I'll be coming across with a bend and then out and then bend down. Gonna kind of aim towards the front of the frame rail, just because it'll be a good spot for being able to mount a radiator from the sway bar support up to the top of the tube, kind of a thing, without causing to have a whole lot of extra bracketry up there. And I kind of need to do this anyway, because it's going to get the front tied in, and once the door is in place, then I can start worrying about my door tubes. Also cut away the rest of the factory panel that was still mounted along here, because I decided I'm not going to use that. And you can see where I put my brackets or gussets in to the cage for the body right off of that door hinge reinforcement plate. Now the plan here going forward is, at some point when I get to finishing, I'll be able to run a flat plate off of here, maybe a little bit of shape in it to match up with the cage, and then I can just kind of like wrap it right around the cage and then go out to this flat section all the way back over here, which is way out by the very outside edge of the quarter panel. I just took some very rough measurements as far as how I want to make that tube. Basically 26-inch shot off of the dash bar and front upright there, and then about a 30-degree bend. I'll just have to, probably start at like 25 and then creep up on it and just see how it looks to find the right bend number that I need. And then another 20-inch shot, and then it'll, at 90 degrees to that, I'll have a 45 to go down to the front of the frame rail. Now, before I start doing any bends, I want to get this end coped as close as I can. Now we're going to have the vertical tube of that front main bar, and then we're going to have the dash bar coming in, although it's not going to be, they're 90 degrees to each other, but they're going to be oriented kind of at an angle, which really doesn't matter a whole lot for the vertical tube. So I'm going to first make a cut for the vertical one. And then once, like I said, we got to figure out what that angle is actually going to be finished at. So same thing, I can just start like 20 degrees and then just work my way up till I like where the tube is landing compared to the coilover mount. So I need it to fit up to this joint here. We'll get the vertical, so it'll fit just like this, and I can twist it around to wherever. But I want it to fit on both of them. So I'll be able to start fairly shallow, and then just the more I need, I can just keep moving over until I get it to land here at the coilover mount where I want. Alright, just threw the first cut on there. It's just centered about a third to half cut. Usually I go just a little under a half, that way I lose a little thickness on both ends, because I got to grind it back for a good fill weld anyway. Now, before I pull this out, I probably should throw a clamp block on here, because I'm going to want to turn it 90 degrees to make the next cut, to make sure that we're in plane and don't have any wiggle there. Now, I suppose if I was smart, I would have thrown this on, clamp block on ahead of time. set at the angle that I'm going to need for doing the bend. Well, okay, so if that's vertical, I'm going to want to come off the car in a flat plane and do a flat plane bend. So if it's like this, it bends this way, which is 90 degrees. Yeah, so right now, basically everything's turned, vertical is turned horizontal right now the way you're looking at it. So if we take this and stand it back up, I need to bend it in this direction. So with it turned back down, I need to bend in this direction, which means we need the clamp block on in this orientation. That way when we're sticking it in the bender, it is bending, well, it's going to bend this way. So, well, it doesn't matter which way. I need to pay attention when I move it to the other side, because otherwise right now the way I'm thinking about it, down is passenger side out, so I would need it this way so that I can bend it like this to point towards the front of the car as it bends. But if I set my block like this right now, it won't matter, I can just roll it over. So, but it will matter for making that notch cut, or we screw it up and we've just started making the driver's side instead. I always zero the gauge block off the fixture here so that I can reference it, and for the case of what we're doing, I do want to flip this over just because this is the side of the block that references the machine. That's just bolted together, so it can tweak a little bit side to side, but this is the one that's going to hold it on the machine. So I want to make sure that that one is the one that's set up level. Now, I suppose I could get extra fancy and try to set this in the correct place for the bend too while I'm at it, which should be 26. But then I gotta subtract 6, so we're gonna be at 20. That's basically 5 inches to there, so I can go 15 off the end. Right there. And then as long as I put this end in the machine, then my bend will end up in the right place. Now we can come over and make sure that we get this to 0. Snug it up a little bit. Alright, and zeros. Zeros. Okay, good. Alright, here's a quick initial mock-up. Now I've got my test piece, which I know is 6 inch from here, and my start of my bend is marked. So that's, that should be from this side. So here I can kind of look at like, all right, so another 6 inches, bend's gonna start here, and it comes straight with the frame rail, right at the frame rail. So that looks perfect. I mean, there'll be just a tiny little bit of wiggle room there when we're done, but no, it looks great. I'm realizing right now would be the perfect time to have a good angle gauge for in there. I don't have one right now, so we're just gonna creep up on it. I got kind of crappy one I can check it with though to get the ballpark number. Alright, Crappy Protractor said it was roughly 30 degrees, which hey, I was surprised my guess was that close, because I was literally just eyeballing it off of the pre-bent tube setup section. I also then thought, well, I can do this with trigonometry also. So we got about an 11-inch offset here, and going out to where our bend's going to be, we got roughly 20 inches. You know, give or take, I can't quite go off of the actual location here because of the bend is going to lengthen that a little bit off of where the tube's going to sit as far as an angle. But anyway, with that I came up with 28 point something degrees, 28.8 or something like that. So, I mean, yeah, 30's a good ballpark. I mean, that's basically, we're going to be within plus minus 2 degrees of an angle for sure at that point. So I think that'll work out great. Alright, well, I thought I should mark this to make sure that I'm going to actually be bending it off of the correct side, and then realized I got my block sitting on here the opposite. So, because it's gonna bend and it's gonna pull in this direction, we want to go the other direction. So, take this and over there, and then now I can mark that this is the side we want to notch, because then it's going to pull that. Now this is the part that I've screwed up on more than one occasion, because I know I want a 30-degree angle off of straight. So does that mean I need 30 on here or 60 on here? I think the best way to do that's going to be if I pull it so now we're dead straight in line. And I want to angle it 30 degrees, so that'd be this way. And that would be a 30. But is that right? No, because we're going to be on the opposite side of that line, so I need 60. So there, so that'd be 60-degree angle into here. So this is 60, and that'd be 30 there. Yes. Pretty sure. 90% sure. Alright, was able to verify this by thinking about it, that the 30 versus the 60 makes a shallower cut here, which would be the same as, you know, if we're pulling it over, it's going to be a shallow cut versus a heavy cut. So, yes. And then I left it spaced just a little bit off of the tube on the far side, so it'll just wrap around a little bit extra on the back, or at least hopefully it'll fit up like that. I did level out again to make sure that we are even, so should be ready to cut. Yep, that looks pretty dang close. I don't need a little bit of massaging to fit it in there, but I'll have clearance for the welds afterwards anyway. Well, try as I might, that didn't work out. I got the tube like jammed in there where it fits the best against the other tubes right now, and obviously this is not level and in plane. So we're gonna have to move my clamp block a little bit. Doesn't really affect anything at this point in time, but if I'd have just slammed this in the bender and put the bend on it, I'd have been all kinds of goofy, because it would have been like bending at an upward angle then. I mean, I got it sitting shimmed up here so that it's level to the chassis, but the bend would have been out of plane, and therefore we would have ended up pointing upwards on the opposite side. So yeah, that needs to get fixed. And I've got just a couple of vice grips in there to hold it at the right height that I want. That's how I was able to level out the tube relative to the chassis, but yeah, you just gotta fix that little bit of a bend. Alright, now with this block repositioned, I would normally put on my next clamp block in order to make sure that they're staying in line with each other. However, it's going to need to be clocked 90 degrees, and therefore I can't really just set it on the floor and have them sit on the same plane and line them up super easy. I mean, it'd get me pretty close, but because of just the position that this is on the chassis, once I put this bend in, it'll be coming out here straight and horizontal with the frame rail down here. Once I've got that end set, it kind of locks the rotation of the tube, and then I can just reset the clamp block and just level it out in situation. Now, if it was, you know, something like the A-pillar tube here, where it's not flat and level at the time, that's way more difficult to do, and I would have to try to line that up ahead of time. But just because we're ending up level, that'll be easy to do afterwards. And then I can move my block back and forth to set my position so that I can land the tube where I want to as well. Feeling brave, we're just gonna go right to 30. We'll have a little bit of spring back and then we'll adjust from there. .2. That's like 4 degrees of spring back. But the nice part about this is we can check it right now and see how it fits on the car. So right now, and then if I eyeball it straight to the frame, it's about there, and I can see frame on this side of the tube, so we're a little outboard of probably where I want to be, because I'd rather just set it up more with frame. Now I can get there by adding more angle, which means we're gonna have to bend more angle. So if I go another 4 degrees, that might put us exactly where we want to be. Alright, now we're at 29.75 degrees. Ah, dang it. Should only went to, what did I say the actual math calculation was? 28 something? Oh, I probably should have listened to that. Although I was guesstimating what difference this curve was going to be. Well, now I'm on a little too far in from the frame rail. The chances of me unbending this are very, very little. I mean, there's a chance if you can get a lot of leverage on it to try to do something with it, but the easier solution is going to be I can cut back here, and then as that, you know, trims away, it'll move the whole thing outboard while we keep it parallel. So that I better just take my time on. I mean, we're quite a ways off. I'm gonna have to take probably a good ½ inch should be a good starting place, but that's all right. Right now the bend ends right about here, so if we end up taking, you know, ½ to a full inch off of this in order to move it back, then we'll get this part centered up on a nice straight flat and we're not on a bend, and I don't know, whatever. This is part of the fun of it. You just kind of make it up as you go. I literally have nothing that says any of this has to be anywhere specific. I'm just doing it as I go kind of a thing. So when I go to the other side, I know that I'll just figure out how much I needed to cut off of here right off the bat, and then I can just move this clamp block in relation to what that distance is, so that when I go to my 30-degree bend on the first try on that side, it fits the first time, hopefully. All right, I'm in the middle of this taking way too long, and realizing that I didn't have that great of a plan other than knowing kind of where I wanted the tube to be. So I'm on like my, I don't know, 12th cut, but I'm trying to creep up on it this time, not go too far. But I did get a little bit smarter, and instead of trying to eyeball this thing, realizing that now I have a bend in it, whether it's level this way now changes whether it lines up with the frame. So if I'm not holding it right, I couldn't eyeball it correctly in the first place. So now these are here so that I can visually, the tube will fit between these two, so I can visually see where it's at when it's pushed tight back to the node. And then the front here, they're a little bit short, but I can just kind of go up and then, all right, where is vertical, and then see what the gap is when the tube has the level on it saying that it's level, which matches the front frame rail here. So yeah, you know, eventually I'll get smarter and get there quicker. I mean, half of it's just learning these little tricks to help things out and make sure that they come out right. I mean, the flip side would be, I mean, I could certainly build a couple of stands off of the frame itself and make sure those are super square and everything, but then basically I'm cutting a bunch of tube, putting a notch in it, making sure that they're identical heights, making sure that they're square in both directions to then tack weld onto the frame just to cut them off, and it's wasted tube later. So it kind of, you know, what's actually going to take more or less time. You know, this is a super quick and easy setup. Alright, so I've got 0 at the center of the chassis. I've got up 0.2. Up 0.3. Up 0.25. And in the front of the chassis we got up 0.36. So I couldn't even hardly tell you how far off it really is because it's pretty dang close. I mean, if I go, it's like, what, 11 5/8 to the top, the back, or 11 3/4, so 1/8 inch. So really I could just go like that. Yeah, now we're 11 5/8. 11 5/8. 11 5/8. And it's 0.38 down there and 0.43 there. 0.67 all the way out here. 0.77. 0. So I mean, really the argument here is just, I mean, who knows? I don't know what the, I mean, this thing goes to 2-digit places, but I don't think its accuracy is there. So really we're talking, I mean, it's repeating on everything within 1/3 of a degree. I guess the biggest thing is at this point, trust tape measure. You know, and really I'm just, again, I'm kind of eyeballing, but it's pretty dang close. I guess to be more accurate, I could go, it's like a 1/16 over there, and I just need a straight edge to run off the back. Yeah, 11 5/8. So I mean, we're within a 1/16, and it says the front could come down a little, and that's going off of my welded on in many places frame rail already that I'm pretty sure is pointed slightly uphill at the front, but really I don't care as long as, you know, it's at least close to parallel. I mean, I don't need perfection. Everything here is just going to be wide open space anyway with brackets to mount some stuff. So, and or out to mount the body. None of it's that critical. It's not like I'm 3D modeling this whole car and 3D printing a shit ton of parts that are going to be absolute, have to be perfect fit kind of a thing. Now, as far as our fit up goes, we're, you know, tight to the back of the cage there. I'm just barely off of the front. Looks like I definitely need to cut some more to pull it back. But now I'm just chasing my fit here. It's kind of a good thing I had to do all these extra cuts because my down bars in the front weren't actually completely 90-degree vertical. They got a 7-degree tilt in them, which, weirdly enough, when I was mocking it up, oh, it fit the tube really nice. Well, that's because it was at a downhill angle and it fit up nice. So, but now I'm trimming back. I'm just trying to dial in this being straight and square with the frame rail right now. Because when I do the other side, I want them to be square to each other. I really don't, I'm gonna try to center it up, but I really don't care if it's off to one side or the other, as long as it matches on the other side when I do the other side. But yeah, mostly I just wanted to stop here right now to show you guys and gals that I'm trying to get smarter as I go. So now I've got it shimmed and shimmed, so now when I take it out, now I don't have to go back and try to level, put the gauge on and try to level this bar out and hold it and eyeball it and all that stuff. It just sits in there right now. So this will make it super easy where now I can keep trimming with my cope cut, get that in, get the tube lined up, and then I'm set. Like, then I know that that's where it needs to be, and then I've got all this stuff in here to help line it up, that even when I go to make my bend up here, I can just take all of this stuff, move it back, it'll support it before the bend. I put the bend in and it'll be fine. The only downside now is I'm cutting and cutting and cutting. I gave myself some extra length just in case this would happen. I just don't know at what point the angle I end up at. I mean, if I go right to 45, my plan was to be a little bit short of the front of this rail. I might end up a bit more short, but again, it really doesn't matter. The front of this frame rail is going to be about where the nose cone starts at the front of the hood. So the car's only got another, I don't know, 8 to 10 inches of stick out from the front, so this will all be back bar anyway. Alright, got an okay fit up there. I mean, I'm not worried about it being absolutely perfect because basically got to grind it back at least that much to make sure you can get a nice weld in there anyway. But I could fit it a little bit more. Otherwise, here's the big thing. Look how close that sucker is. Like right when it all disappears down the length. So basically, we ended up with this tube at the inside edge of the frame rail, because it's touching here and it's lining up with that one, which I am absolutely perfectly okay with. No, I could probably just verify that again by measuring from the tube over to that frame rail. As long as it's within a 1/16 or so, it's kind of what I was aiming for on this car. So, but really, I'll trust piece of angle iron. I mean, even if it's a little bit beat up there, it's still looking like, you know, I got 1.5 inches, that's 2 inch. You got, you know, I suppose it's only about 3/8 or whatever. I don't know. I'll measure a couple more things to make sure that it's like going to be sitting parallel. Honestly, like I said, I just want to match to the front frame rail. So if the frame rails are whatever, I want the tube to match. If you're kind of questioning why I'm saying that I really just want to match to the front, really don't care where it's at, it's because, I mean, I spent a lot of time and effort trying to make sure that the fronts matched, they were parallel to each other, they were level to the rest of the car, or at least consistent. I feel like they were up ever so slightly in the front, but I mean, whatever. Like, it's not going to matter one bit whatsoever with how the rest of the car gets built. It's just something that's minor, and at some point I need to commit to a measurement that I can make versus being super concerned about where it's at related to other things. Like, I had the car over here on the flattest part of concrete that I have in the building, and that's what I was building it off of, because I don't have a jig table. If I had a jig table, this whole thing would still be set up on there, and we'd have all kinds of things to measure off of. But the frame rails and everything were set up off of the floor, which was the flattest I could get them, and then I also confirmed all of that with a laser level. Well, now I've got it moved here in the garage. Yeah, I know it's leaning at almost 1 degree where it's sitting. That's why I'm not going to get overly concerned about trying to dial this tube into the world around it. If anything, I could go back and I could set up the laser level again, but because the car is leaning, that's not going to do me any good unless I get some like adjustable jack screws or something out here so I can actually level the car out to the laser again, and then I do everything off of the laser. But then it'd be just like when I did the frame rails. There's going to be back and forth and back and forth and back and forth trying to get it dialed in to center line, and then hope that you don't bump it enough that the laser gets knocked out. So rather than doing all that, I just want to commit to something that, as far as I'm concerned, is a known and is set. That way I can just keep moving on without getting
overly concerned. I've already put more time into this tube than any of the other ones I've done, I think. Like, I think I did my down bars faster than this. This is definitely proving to be the most complicated tube so far. Crazy. So I don't know why my brain isn't mathing right now, but I just thought that this tube was going to land back here and have to be at a 45-degree angle. And this is only 30 and I'm touching already. I mean, I still need to go down the 1.5 or, well, 1.25 rather, to be able to cut this flat, but I think I'm going to be way closer, but maybe not. I don't know. By the time it swings down, maybe it'll be back there yet, but I don't know. I had to convince myself that it was going to be okay. But then was thinking, well, what the heck? Because then my length would have ended up being like way short. Yeah, because like 45 would be way back here. Unless it's just, maybe it's the tube diameter, because I was factoring a little high. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not being close enough. I don't know. I'll be happy with it. The farther it is to the front, the better. All right. 35-degree angle. And it was just what I had left for tube. So when I go to the other side, I'll cut it the same length. I'll be able to take that distance because it's significantly shorter for trimming it down. That'll give me extra space on this side. If I put my gauge on this tube, it's like 2/10 off of 35. If I put it up here, it's like down 2/10, down 2/10, down 3/10, and down like 15. So I'd say it's right there. Also, you need to see how close it ended up on the inside. So we're touching. Just a little bit of a gap and totally flush with that inside edge. So yeah, real happy with how that came out. And by the way, I did go from the tube when it was sticking straight out, from the side of the tube all the way down to the outside corner, and front and back was a 1/4 inch difference, but if I measured across the frame rail, front, back, 1/4 inch difference. So, and that little bit of 1/4 inch difference was just a little bit of spread to the front on the frame rails. And like I said, I was more worried about them being, level in plane to each other, which I got dialed in with the laser level before, and yeah, I knew there was something a little bit off on the front, and I mean, it's kind of to be expected. It pulled in at the front because of all of the welding from the front cross member, from the sway bar tube that goes across, like all of that was shrinking, so it pulled the front together. And I mean, 1/4 inch there, I mean, really the only thing going up there is the radiator. That is of any consequence as far as whether the frame rails are perfectly straight or not. So not a big deal. So as far as putting these bars in, they're probably going to end up with that same, like from here up to there, that same about a 1/4 inch taper in, but at least they'll be, flush with the frame the whole way. Where if I decided that I wanted to throw a flat piece of steel or aluminum or whatever here to seal off this wheel well, which I probably will because, we race in the rain, it's just a flat sheet. It doesn't have to be anything weird or crazy, anything like that. So it can just be flat piece, no big deal, easy peasy.
Now with this bar welded in, the plan is going to be a little standoff, just a piece of tube that just slips in there and then wraps around so you get a nice plenty of weld on it. To tie that in, I'm thinking about one here just to reinforce that sway bar area, although it probably doesn't need it, but it just might be a small weight concession to really tie that in together. But that'll also be like by the time the radiator and stuff gets in there, it'll be mounting off of that and stuff will be tied in more in other directions as well. Not that I want to use the radiator as a stressed member, but you kind of get what I mean. I mean, there'll be more stuff going on before the end, so I can always add that later too. Just getting ready to do the driver's side. I marked out the door hinges position just the same, and then I'll do like passenger side and get all this cut away. And at that point, I think there's only 2 spot welds up here that are left on the passenger side, and the whole cowl, everything will come out. I was trying to save all of this with the intention of being able to run the window wipers. However, we're definitely gonna have some carb throttle body trying to sit right here situation going on. So we'll have to figure out something different for that in the future. But for now, it'll just be make everything a lot easier to have the cowl out of the way also. But also need to finish up my floor pans and stuff. I did make a lot of progress before in a previous video on that, where I got basically inserts for the footwell area, under the seat, around the transmission. The intention is to use that center console as a transmission tunnel cover kind of a thing, where that can be flipped up out of the way and give full access underneath. I don't know, I'm still thinking about that one. We'll see how it comes out. Otherwise, I still got the original stuff that I thought about using, but otherwise this one here would finish tying that rear section together. I just don't know if that's how I want to do it. It might be good just to have another layer of something between the drive shaft and the interior. And mostly that section would only be from about here back anyway. But that'll be farther down the road. I just can't do a lot of loud cutting right now because it's nap time over there. So trying to just pick away at what I can. I've also got, the rest of this piece of this upper bracket to cut away to make clearance for the door. Then the door should be in alignment, or at least very close, where I can make sure that the holes that I put in here allow enough access for alignment of the door. That way that can be set in place and ready to go.